Hi, is an inheritance a gift or is it your right? It's Nancy Beauvair here with Agape and NEXsteps, and that's the big question that I wanted to ask today. Now, personally, I believe that an inheritance is a gift. I believe that anybody who has worked and contributed in their life and has accumulated items or finances or anything that they can't take with them when they pass on has the right to provide those items to whomever they wish, however they wish. However, there are a lot of people who think it is an inherent right. But there is a bit of a conundrum with being either on one side of this argument or on the other. Things, like everything else in life, aren't black and white. There are blurred lines. Now, granted, yes, people do have the right to choose whatever they do with their accumulated assets when they pass on. But we all know, we've all heard about the person who gets angry with somebody because maybe they couldn't exert any control over them, or maybe they did something that hurt their feelings, or maybe they had a real legitimate reason. Maybe they got taken advantage of or ended up being stolen from, for instance. There might be really valid, legitimate reasons for cutting somebody out of your will. But if you're doing it as a parent and you're doing it simply because you got angry at your child, or because your child married somebody that you don't get along with, or maybe your child has addiction issues, and you're afraid that if you do give an inheritance, it'll be squandered. Whatever your reasons are, I'd like to ask you to think a little bit beyond that. Over the course of the past couple of weeks, I have read so many articles and heard so many stories about people who were cut out of the will. And in most cases, these people didn't realize it until after the person had passed on. So there was no way to reconcile this. Over and over again, the crushing emotion that these people are left with is the fact that they were treated different than their siblings, or that it was the final rejection from their parent. And as one person said, it was a crushing blow from the grave. So, once you're dead, there are no do-overs. If you have a legitimate reason for cutting heirs out of your will, then maybe what you need to do is try to have a method of communicating this so that there is less stress, less turmoil. Because let's face it, if you have a child who has been cut out of the will and you have other children in your will, that one child can contest the will. So it's going to create a lot of turmoil. It's going to create family splits. It's going to create upheaval. It's going to end up going to court. And your legacy will be completely tarnished. It'll be completely soiled. And the intended inheritance may not even be there for anybody after all the legal bills and court costs are paid. So you really have to think about that. Now, on the other hand, I'd also like to reach out to the heirs or potential heirs of an estate. One article that I read a few days ago, it really struck me. It was a young woman who was about to get married, and she was angry with her parents because she found out that her inheritance had lost value. Her parents had invested in something and had a staggering loss. And so this young woman's inheritance ended up being worth about 10% of what the original value had been. Her response was that they squandered her inheritance, and as a result, her parents were not going to be invited to her wedding, and that they would never see her children. I think that's a little harsh. Now, again, this young woman has some legitimacy to her feelings. She had older siblings who did receive their inheritance. It was structured such that they would get this money passed on to them when they hit a certain age. So her older two siblings did receive their full value. So her argument was they now had a home and they were set up and they had some financial stability where she doesn't. I understand that her feelings are hurt. But what is the solution for that? How do you quantify and equate an amount of money that is being given to you over the emotions and the love and the tightness of a family? Now, maybe the family dynamic is such that it wasn't that strong a bond to begin with. Maybe they can't communicate with each other and learn about each of these positions and see what they can come up with for a compromise. Regardless, there's a lot of thought that needs to be put into naming beneficiaries in your will. Now, a lot of people create their will, name their beneficiary, tuck their will away. Some people never look at it again, although you should be reviewing your will regularly, especially if anything in your life changes, like a marriage or a divorce, your children marrying or divorcing, grandchildren being born, anything that could affect what your assets are or how your will be interpreted. Your will would need to be updated. But if you're creating a solid estate plan, what you should do is start to communicate well before you die. Create your will, talk to your executor, talk to your heirs, get things out on the table, be open about things. If you don't want to disclose all of your assets, by all means, you're under no obligation to do that. But there are certified executor advisors, of which I'm one, and we can help navigate some of those obstacles. We can help structure things with you and your executor, your future executor, to see that as much as possible, you're going to be avoiding some of these traps, some of these issues, some of these problems that can never be remedied from the grave. So what do you think? Are your heirs entitled to what you work for, or is it a gift? Leave me your comments, leave me your thoughts. I appreciate it. Thanks very much for joining me today, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.